Welcome back to this episode of the 2-3 Zone podcast. I am your co-host Josh, and with me as always is my pal Cameron.
What's happening, everybody?
One of the things that we discussed a while ago were our top 10 players of all time, and we feel like it would be necessary to bring in our favorite franchises. Well, not our favorite, the ones that we think are the best, the golden league of franchises. But without that, it wouldn't be any kind of list to start if we didn't have the 5 worst franchises in the NBA league. Cameron, what do you have as your top 5 worst franchises of all time, 5-1?
Top 5 worst franchises. Number 1, I had the Charlotte Hornets and the Charlotte Bobcats. That's almost a no-brainer. Number 2 is the Brooklyn Nets. Keep in mind, these are the Brooklyn Nets and not the New Jersey Nets, who have great players in their history, such as Dr. J, Jason Kidd, and even Richard Jefferson, who was an all-star back in his day. Number 3, I have the San Diego/Los Angeles Clippers, the cursed franchise. Number 4, I have the Memphis Grizzlies, and number 5 is the Sacramento Kings.
So, would you mind explaining a few of your picks real quick before I give my list?
Sure. So, the Charlotte Hornets and Charlotte Bobcats, or /Charlotte Bobcats rather, are probably the worst franchise in NBA history. They have no division titles, no conference titles, and no league titles.
Brutal.
I know, and I think their biggest upside has been Kemba Walker. Well, actually, if we go back into the history of the Charlotte Hornets, they had Alonzo Mourning, they had Del Curry.
Mm-hmm.
That team really didn't do anything. So
they broke the team apart with
Yeah,
Larry
they broke the team
Johnson
apart.
and Alonzo.
And so I think in the most recent history, Kemba Walker has been their biggest upside. But they were even thinking about shopping him in trade deals this trade deadline and just blowing the whole thing up. Their whole franchise has been sort of dysfunctional over the past couple of years. And some people thought that, with Michael Jordan stepping up and taking ownership, that it might be less dysfunctional.
Oh,
that
no.
doesn't seem to happen. Number 2 has to go to the Brooklyn Nets, mainly because of the trade they made involving KG and Paul Pierce, notably from the Celtics. And the Celtics in turn received how many top draft picks? I want to say over the past couple
4 or
years,
5.
4 or 5.
It's
so
arguable.
That kind of wrecked their franchise.
Mm-hmm. It's arguable that that's the worst trade in NBA history.
Yes,
that one.
I think that's definitely up there. But they haven't been terrible recently.
They've been trying.
shockingly.
Jared Allen from UT has been nice. I think he's put in a good deal of work. They're doing the best with what they have.
And they did get a solid point guard in D'Angelo Russell.
Yes.
And Spencer Dinwiddie, of course, has been stepping his game up.
Greatest player of all
Put
time.
some respect on Spencer Dinwiddie's name. Heard it here first. Number 3, the Los Angeles Clippers, or back in the day, the San Diego Clippers. They've had a history of being cursed. Their best player in league history, or in their history rather, I'd say is Bob McAdoo.
Yeah, I agree.
But going forward in the days of Lob City, they seem to have what we would consider now is almost a super team, but not quite there. They had DeAndre Jordan, one of the best big men in the league, Blake Griffin, an athletic freak, and Chris Paul, one of the top 5 point guards of all time, in my opinion. The fact that they couldn't make it work, even they couldn't even go to a Western Conference Finals, and they're kind of blowing it up there in Los Angeles, just goes to show that something's wrong with the franchise, and no matter how much talent you seem to put around them, it doesn't seem very successful.
Okay.
Number 4, the Memphis Grizzlies. It's not necessarily, their fault that they haven't been as successful. They have Marc Gasol now, which is great.
They used to have Pau Gasol.
Back when he was in his prime, you would say. But they have Mike Conley now. But in their recent history, they really haven't done a lot. They're really good. They're a good playoff team. When they make the playoffs, of course. This year, I think they were on a 19-game losing streak, almost breaking their record for longest NBA losing streak. And so that's why I have them at number 4. Number 5, the Sacramento Kings. Now, it could be argued. In fact, I think it's very evident that I believe it was the 2002 or 2001. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Western Conference Finals were rigged against them.
Yeah. 2002.
Yeah, 2002. But even after that, they haven't been anywhere. Not after the days of Chris Webber and Mike Bibby. They got one of the best big men of his time, DeMarcus Cousins, and traded him away for Buddy Hield and a jar of mustard pickles. So that move right there, I think, was awful. They have a nice young prospect in De'Aaron Fox now, really good slasher.
Yeah,
pretty okay shooter.
But again, that's no Mike Bibby.
Yeah, it's no Mike Bibby. And so those are the reasons that I picked my top 5 worst franchises of all time in the NBA. How about your list?
All right, I'm gonna keep mine a little quicker, but still reasons. From 5 to 1, I have the Brooklyn Nets at number 5. I think they made a stupid mistake, but the fact that if we're gonna count them as the New Jersey Nets as well, they still made the finals 3 straight times. They still had Kerry Kittles and Richard Jefferson, so I don't think one terrible trade is enough to bash them as hardly.
And if I may, when they were the New Jersey Nets, didn't Julius Erving lead them to a championship?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah. They also had Drazen Petrovic before he sadly passed away in the mid-90s. But I digress. I have the Kings at number 4 because I agree with all of the points that you stated. They haven't made the most out of any of their draft picks or any of their prospects that they've gotten. They've blown up a lot of their potential, and I think that's mostly in part to having Vlade Divac as your GM, where it's probably seemed good on paper, but it really hasn't worked out. I have the Clippers at number 3 for obvious reasons. I think that if I have to put it out there, I think the Rivers family has been the downfall of this organization. It seemed like a great idea, again, to bring a championship-winning coach to this team, but it obviously has not worked out to the point where he's drafting his son and playing him, where it's questionable that there's maybe even better players that should be starting over Austin Rivers. But that's just my take. At number 2, I have the New York Knicks. I have them as one of the worst.
Knicks.
I have them as one of the worst franchises of all time. Just in the last few years, with Isaiah Thomas as your GM and Phil Jackson as your president. Again, this isn't in the same time, or it was for a little while. But Isaiah Thomas single-handedly derailed the Knicks. And if you think about it, the whole situation with Malik Rose was because of Isaiah Thomas. So San Antonio can thank him for one of those rings. The fact that we got Malik Rose because of how bad Isaiah Thomas was. He passed up on people like Andre Iguodala in free agency, and they did terrible deals, and they gave money out at random. And with Phil Jackson running them, I think that he just cared more about a paycheck than actually winning. So he just ran them into the ground. And I'm not even a Knicks fan, but I feel for the city of New York. They have one ring. If you really think about it, one ring. And which leads me to my worst team of all time, worst franchise, the Charlotte Hornets and Bobcats. I agree with everything you've said. They've gone down as the worst team in league history with how terrible they were. If Bismack Biyombo is your second best player, there's not much to root for. And, this is a bit of a depressing note, but I'm going to bring things to a lighter side. That being said, we just had to get this off our chest.
Oh, and if I could fact check this for a second, Dr. J actually won a title with the 76ers.
Yeah. Okay.
And New York has 2 titles. Did you say that, they actually have 1 title to mean something else? Because they actually have
No,
2
my bad.
titles.
I meant, 2 titles.
Okay.
I think the last time the New York Knicks won a championship, it was with Walt Frazier and Willis Reed, right?
Yeah, Willis Reed, man, that guy was...
Something else. All right, going on to this brings us to the top 5 franchises. I'll go from 5 to 1. Cameron, you'll go from 5 to 1, and we'll have a few minutes just to debate it out.
All right.
I'm gonna straight up say my teams, and you give yours. All right. I have from 5 to 1. I have the Golden State Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs, the Bulls, the Lakers, and the Celtics.
Okay, from 5 to 1, I have the Miami Heat, the Chicago Bulls, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Boston Celtics, and number 1. Good old San Antonio.
Oh, no! You can't have San Antonio better than Boston.
I'll tell you, the reason that I have San Antonio ahead of Boston is for what they were able to accomplish, in their time in the NBA. The Celtics have been around forever. The Spurs, not so much. That's why I have them at number 1.
You don't give any credit to Golden State?
I do give credit to Golden State. They have, I think, 5 titles now, 2 coming from the modern era and 3 from in the 70s.
But again, they had Wilt Chamberlain with them.
Yes, but for the past 40 years, almost 50 years up until now, they haven't been very good. Besides the We Believe team with Baron
Baron
Davis,
Davis, Richardson,
Baron
and
Davis,
Steven
Richardson,
Jackson.
Matt
Yeah.
Barnes. They were great. I won't say they're great. They were a really, really good team. But I think it says something when almost every year you have San Antonio as not necessarily the favorite to win the title, but in talks of they're always a legitimate threat. Besides this year, of course, with the loss of our superstar Kawhi Leonard.
Sadly.
Just the way that they run their franchise, best run franchise, I think, in not only in basketball history, but American sports history, right up there with the New England Patriots. So that's why I gave them my number one spot, because of what they represent and how much they've done while they've been in the league. Whereas the Celtics and Lakers, they've been around forever, so of course they would have as many titles as they have.
Before I go back to them, before I take us back to the Warriors, would you mind explaining why you have the Miami Heat so high up?
Yeah.
I need a legitimate explanation.
Okay. They had a great coach in Pat Riley.
Yeah. Top three.
Top three. I think that barring injuries, the dynasty that they could have created with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade would have been excellent. I think they're one of the best player for player franchises of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my reason for them being in the top five. I think the Warriors still need to prove themselves as being a legitimate dynasty. I mean, they've won 2 out of the last 3. But I think that the position that Miami put themselves in with the big 3 solidifies their spot as one of the best franchises of all time.
I think nobody gives enough credit to Golden State and how they played basketball in the last 3 or 4 years, because I'd argue that Golden State has ushered in this new wave of basketball where it's not pass first, but get the open man, I screen for you, you screen for me, I shoot for you, you shoot for you, or
yes
you shoot for me.
No. Yeah, I want to say yes and no.
But the 14 Spurs did that first. But I'm saying that Golden State made it popular.
What would you say, like, their offense is similar to, like, the D'Antoni Suns?
Mm-hmm.
Almost, because, D'Antoni was a little bit more offensively focused.
I think D'Antoni, he lives and dies by the 3-point shot, and that's why I don't have the Rockets on here yet.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and yeah, if we were to look at the Bulls real quick, I think this is just a really quickie. The Bulls, 2 words, Michael Jordan. That's simply put, that's why they're on this list in the first place. No MJ, there's no way you're on this list.
No doubt.
Now, I also have the Celtics above the Lakers. Would you care to give why you agree? Before you upset people on the West Coast?
I'd love to upset people on the West Coast because I am a Spurs fan. So I have the Celtics ahead of the Lakers because of their legacy in the league. 11 titles with Bill Russell. Very, accomplishment that will never be beaten. Bill Russell, 11 rings. I think they've had a more historic mark on the NBA as opposed to the Lakers, because when Jerry West played for the Lakers, he only won 1 ring out of 8 finals. So
Elgin Baylor never even won a ring.
Excuse me?
Elgin Baylor never won a ring.
Elgin Baylor never won a ring.
No.
So I just think that the Celtics, I do believe they have the most titles in the NBA, but the Lakers are right behind them. And really those 2 franchises are neck and neck because of how great they are. But I'd have to give the Celtics a slight edge over the Lakers.
Yeah, if you were to pick one, I'd go with Boston as well. There's something about the culture that the Celtics bring in that it just overshadows everything by the Lakers. The Lakers are more, flashy, Showtime kind of era. I think Magic Johnson,
for sure.
Byron Scott, and them really embodied that. But again, there's something about teams like Boston and San Antonio that have this grit and grind mentality that always allow them to be better than the other teams. They're not
very professional. If I might add.
They're not focused on the fame. They believe that the fame comes when they put in the hard work and win. And
I agree.
Yeah, thank you. And with that note, we'll draw to conclusion this episode of the 2-3 Zone podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Please give a like, a subscribe, a shout out would really help out. And if you have
shout out to Coach Carr.
Oh, shout out to Coach Carr. And if there's a hot take or an opinion you don't agree with, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to go back and forth with you. All right, thank you for tuning in.